So we're going to do the review of our first article. And just to let you guys know, I understand that everybody's got different interests, and everybody wants to hear a different story. And I respect that. And I will definitely always look at your feedback and your requests because I'm here for you. However, when it comes down to articles, I am going to basically share with you what I like. And it's all about bonding, and some people already got a few requests. Hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And I will consider that. But for the most part, in this component, the article review is going to be stuff that I feel you should know. So you're going to have to trust me on this one. If you want to do your own review, go right ahead. If you want to get your own article, go right ahead, read it, review it. That's up to you. But I want to stay on track. And to stay on track, I need to talk to you guys about stuff that I feel is important. And I feel that you're going to be able to benefit. So our first article is what I considered one of a classic, something that everyone who likes bonding has to read. And a lot of people don't like to go back. They want to read the most updated stuff, and then they start reading and they don't understand why certain things are there. But when you read the history, such as this, and then you get a much better understanding. So today's article, the title is Adverse Surface Interaction Between One Bottle Light Cure Adhesives and Chemical Cured Composites. This is from Dental Materials 2001. This was published by Dr. Senaris, Pythagorean, Dr. King, Dr. Franklin Tay, and Dr. David Pashley. This is a PhD dissertation. Well, not all of it, but one of the articles that come out of, dissertations such as this one. So in 2001, the adhesive world had two types of products that were extremely popular. You had the fourth generation type of adhesives where you had to etch, prime, and bond in 3 different steps. And then you have the fifth generation type of adhesives that combine priming and bonding in a single bottle. You still had to etch dentin with phosphoric acid. All right? So now you're combining your primer and your bonding agent. You don't have this hydrophobic resin that you need to place when you're using something like OptiBond FL or Scotch-Bond Multi-Purpose or All-Bond 2. Now you got everything, right? So you got products like Single Bond from 3M, regular Single Bond, not Single Bond Universal, Single Bond. And then you have One Step from Bisco, Prime and Bond NT from Dentsply, OptiBond Solo Plus from Kerr. You had a bunch, all right? Everything was combined into one bottle. So what did these guys do? These guys, what they did was that they tested microtensile bond strength of these adhesives to dentin. But on top of the adhesive, they used 2 different types of composite. They used a chemical cured composite and a light cured composite. And they measured the bond strength, right? So theoretically, should there be a difference if you use a self-cure composite or a light cure composite? Well, when you use a 4th generation type of adhesive, there is no difference. Your bond strength is going to be very similar. Probably when you use self-cure products, you get a lower bond strength due to the polymerization mechanism, but other than that, it should be very, very similar. So these guys took, 24 extracted human teeth, 3rd molars, caries-free, and they did all the preparation, okay, divided into groups, did the whole thing, and you can read it. I'm not going to review that. We're going to talk about the discussion, right? What is the information we gather from this? But what's interesting is that they took their time and went beyond and tried to find out what the components of each adhesive were. So they either went to the website or they talked to somebody within the industry, each company. They used 4 adhesives for this study. They use Primebond NT from Dentsply. They used Optibond Solo Plus from Kerr. They used One Step from Bisco, and they used Single Bond from 3M. And they used two different types of composite: a light cured composite and a self-cured composite. Okay, undented. So they have here what the components are. Of course, this is not a formula. This is just a list of components. No company is going to give you their formula. They give you ranges, you know. It's like, you know, between 10 and 20% of this. But they're not going to give you specific. No one is. You know, so you got Primebond NT, and they mention what they have. You know, they have their pentamonomers, UDMA. Penta is something that they use. I think it's a patent monomer. You know, photoinitiators, stabilizers, acetone. So Optibond NT, Primebond NT is acetone based. And then you got Optibond Solo, where you have ethanol as your solvent. You know, they got bis-GMA, they got HEMA. HEMA is 4-hydroxyethyl methacrylate. That is a primer. You know, they got photoinitiators, and, you know, Single Bond, for example, has polyalkanoic acid, you know, called polymer. That's to be, you know, to work really well with glass ionomer. It also has HEMA. It's ethanol based. You know, so everyone has got a different formula or different components. So even though they're all in the same classification, 5th generation, they're all different, right? They're all different. So they go on, they do their bonding, they break the samples, they do their statistics. So they use something called ANOVA, which is analysis of variance, and then they used a postdoc, a Tukey test, you know, just to see where the difference is and how big of a difference is, you know. So basically, a two-way ANOVA. So what they found, you know, and they did microtensile. The values, when you do microtensile, the number is higher. Everyone is pretty much used to hear values, bond strength, anywhere between 30 and 40. You know, they feel comfortable. When they hear that number, they can relate. Nevertheless, when you read microtensile studies, values go beyond 50. So anything that you're looking for has to be 48, 49, 50. And then you're talking about some interesting bond when doing microtensile bond strength. So what did they find? They found that when they use a light cure composite, Primebond NT yielded 58.2 megapascal. That's pretty solid. That's actually not bad at all. You know, Optibond Solo, 58. Single Bond, 60. One Step, 60. They all work the same. There is no difference when you use a light cure composite and any of these adhesives undented. It is a fact. It is a fact. But when they use self-cure composite, right, you have the values that are crazy low. So chemical cure composite to dentin, right? The adhesive and the chemical cure composite. Primebond 5.4. Optibond 9.6. Single Bond 12. And One Stem 33. I mean, we're talking about a reduction. You got values 5.4 in a microtensile bond strength. That's almost zero. It's like negligible. It's so ridiculous. So something happened when you are using a chemical cure composite. Now, some of you might say, Rolando, I'm never going to use a chemical cure composite. And you probably won't. Or do you? When you cement a crown, and you're using a dual cured cement, right? And you place that crown, you seat it in that dual cured cement. Deep, where the light doesn't go, it's not able to penetrate and activate, it's going to polymerize chemically. That's why it's dual cured. That's the benefit. So your cement, in contact with that surface, bonded surface, deep, is going to polymerize chemically. So it is a chemical cured cement. At that point, it is a chemical cured cement. And whatever affects the chemical polymerization It's going to happen. So here, they're telling you, these adhesives have problems. Why? So they started doing their homework. And one of the things they measured was pH. pH, what is pH? Is, hydrogen potential, the ability to dissociate, So you have a pH scale. Anything, so you got 7, which is neutral. You got below 7 is acidic. Above 7 is alkaline or basic. What is the difference between something that has a pH of 5 and something that has a pH of 4? So what is the difference? So you got adhesives here that have a pH of 2. Other ones have a pH of 3. And other ones have pH of 4. What is the difference between the adhesive that has a pH of 4 and the adhesive that has a pH of 3? Well, 3 is more acidic. Yeah, how much more? Well, the scale is it's logarithmic. So 4 and 3, what's the difference? 1, 10 to the power of 1. So it's 10 times more acidic. That's a lot. Now, imagine you have an adhesive that has a pH of 2 and an adhesive that has a pH of 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. 10 to the power of 2. That's 100. That's 100, yo. That's a lot. So by having these huge pH differences, we're having issues with the bonding. Where does the issue occur? Well, when you test light cure and then you put your, the bond strength using light cure, you can see the bond, you can see the values. Well, the problem is not between dentin and the adhesive or the adhesive and the composite. And so you already know that those can work. But when you change the composite, the problem is, and you use a self-cure, the problem is between the interaction between the chemical cure composite or a dual cure composite in chemical mode and your adhesive right there. Why? Well, low pH, according to this, has a negative interaction, has a negative effect on the polymerization mechanism of chemical cure composite. It does. And I'm not going to get into how and why because it doesn't matter. This has to do with tertiary amines, nitrogen groups, lone pair of electrons, protonization, things going from tertiary amines to quaternary amines and not having the ability to generate free radicals. Do you really need to know all of this? No. But what you do need to know is that when you have a low pH, an adhesive with low pH enough, it can have an effect on the polymerization and the ultimate bond strength of that combination of adhesive and material to dentin, to the tooth structure. So there is a threshold, which is about 2.8. Anything that is below 2.8 is going to be too acidic. If it's above 2.8, then you're good. You can use pretty much anything, right? Now, companies read this article where Dr. Sanera said the low pH has a negative effect. And they came out with stuff called activators. What is an activator? An activator is something that you add to your adhesive. It's a separate bottle. You mix it. So when you do your bonding, it's going to allow for proper chemical cure of your cement or core buildup. Activators. This is 2001. How do you know your product needs an activator? You have to look it up. You have to go to the website. You have to call the person who sold it to you. You have to ask them, what is the pH? They probably won't have that data, but you need to ask them, does it have an activator? Do I need to use it? And you do have to use it. Now, companies have failed to develop an adhesive, not all, but most, to develop an adhesive that is 100% compatible. So they have their activators. But what they've done also is to generate their own cement that will work with their adhesive, and they tell you, well, our cement works with our adhesive. If you go outside of our cement, we're not responsible. So basically they're telling you that. Why? Because they are not capable of developing an adhesive that will properly cure or polymerize or work with other brands. Okay? So you need to ask, does my adhesive need an activator? And if it does, it is much better if you used it. Regardless of your cement or core buildup, it's always going to be better. So Dr. Senares, with this paper from 2001, changed the industry, because now you have companies making adhesives that are sold with the activator. They don't tell you, but they make it because they know there are issues, because Dr. Senares proved it. This is a wonderful article. This is a must read. It's heavy, not in weight, but in knowledge. It takes time to read and digest properly. All I wanted to share with you is that acidic environment will have a negative effect on polymerization and ultimately on bonding. So you need to be aware anytime you use something that it's dual cured, because I know you're not using self-cure. No one does that anymore. But dual cure, for sure, you're using. You gotta have either a dual cure cement and a dual cured core buildup material. All right? You will receive this article. You will be able to read it. All right? So this is what I'm offering you guys. A review. My honest opinion. I'm biased about information that I find valuable. I'm not going to review articles that I feel are crappy. I'm only going to review articles that I feel that have something interesting to offer. And I'm always going to review articles that are coming from peer-reviewed, indexed publications. All right? Dental Materials, 2001. Very prestigious. Not anyone can publish here. Thank you so much. Enjoy, and I'll see you later.